things are developing fairly quickly here. What is your take on the White House and its handling of this crisis at this point?
Hi, David. Thanks. And, we all have our thoughts and prayers with everybody who's been afflicted by this disease and virus. And that includes the White House team, President, First Lady, and now what is a growing list of senior aides and probably junior aides who have been in an environment which was lax when it came to normal standard procedures associated with COVID, wearing a mask, social distancing, trying to take as much outdoors as you can and working from home. And none of those things were standard operating procedures at the White House. So I think that the American public's getting a look at when you take risks, you're going to have to pay the piper, and that's what's happening today.
Before any of this happened, Rick, one of the big questions in the election coming up just a month from right now, one of the big questions was, do we trust President Trump more than we trust former Vice President Joe Biden to handle this crisis? And the president was already behind in most of the polls on that score. What do you think has happened because of this? Because, first of all, we're getting conflicting, sometimes ambiguous or confusing briefings from his doctor at Walter Reed over the weekend. There was a lot of walking things back. Mark Meadows, the chief of staff, disagreeing. And at the same time, we actually also saw the president now get into his SUV, a very closed and contained SUV with two Secret Service agents, to drive past the people outside. He says he gets it. Does he get it?
Well, it's difficult to say whether or not he gets it, right? I mean, the president criticized Joe Biden repeatedly through the campaign trail and most recently at the debates for using a mask as a way of dramatizing the coronavirus. And yet, now it looks like that was exactly the right approach that the vice president was taking, by wearing masks to all his events and socially distancing. So the criticism is now coming back to haunt him. The issue that the White House hasn't really been able to create a positive narrative around Trump getting sick and then going to the hospital and managing the case while he's at the hospital with differing reports between the doctors and the chief of staff are really causing a lot of concern in the public mind because they can't get the straight story. And of course, these are the kinds of things where you just don't want to make mistakes. So the fact they're not on top of this does not reflect well on their management of COVID in general, but specifically the president's health.
In the meantime, we do have an election going on. There's campaigning going on at least some places. What does this do to the president's ability, his team's ability, actually? He also has his campaign manager who's tested positive for the virus. Can they really go forward forcefully with a campaign in these final days?
His campaign manager's tested positive. His lead advisor, Governor Chris Christie, has tested positive, who has been helping him through the debates. I would say that we don't know empirically how this is going to affect him. We don't have polling data since the president contracted COVID. But we do know what's happened since the debates. And there's been a spike in Biden's ballot nationally and in some states from polling taken after the last debate. So if there was any question as to who was going to take advantage of that debate, it looks like it's Biden, to the point where in the latest Wall Street Journal NBC poll, he's almost doubled his national average and increased in states like Pennsylvania in other surveys. So right now, I would say the president has, I wouldn't say bigger problems than COVID, but the election is slipping away at a time where, you've got only 29 days left before Election Day.
Well, and as you point out, he's playing from behind, at least according to almost all the polls now, say he's behind nationally and including in some of the key swing states, like Michigan, that we're going to take a look at this week. So he's got to play from behind. What can he do to turn this around? Because it feels right now like the momentum's going away from him, not with him.
Well, he's using advertising and social media to try and reboot the campaign while he's not doing his events. But even in that area, Biden, because he has had such a successful fundraising campaign, is outspending him in every single category with paid media. So what is the earned media impact? He's not on the campaign trail. And the next debate comes just on the heels of a 2-week quarantine that you would assume the president would respect And so will there be another debate for the president to try and get back in this race? Without that debate, I can't imagine there's an event or a scenario that would catapult the attention of the voters. But then again, who would have thought we'd be sitting here talking about the president sitting in Walter Reed with COVID a week ago? So anything can happen in this election.
Anything can happen. Can a stimulus bill get passed in this election?
Well, I think this is one of the things that could be a victim of COVID. There seems to have been some momentum between the president and his negotiators and Speaker Pelosi at the end of last week, none of which has really come to fruition. There's bailout packages for the airlines where they're holding off firing thousands of employees if they can get this deal done. Nancy Pelosi, the speaker, continues to say that they can get a deal done, but the longer it takes, the less likelihood it is that something's going to happen before Election Day.